Hey everyone, so welcome to the Kent Test Journey presentation. This is really about you just connecting with myself as Mr. C's tutoring and connecting with my approach to the Kent Test in general, I suppose, but also like my approach to the program across the year. I want to make sure that everybody has all the information they need so they can make a well-informed decision, whether that's hiring me as a tutor, whether that's finding somebody else who's like a better fit, or perhaps even like doing it on your own with your child if you feel that that's the right thing for you. So let's jump in and just make a start. So what we're going to get from today's presentation, well, what I want you to do is to take your time through everything, like have a listen to what I have to say, have a read on what's on the slides, and also I'll give you a link so that you can download and just read really at your own leisure. So what I want to go through today is what to expect in general, my general structure. I'm going to cover like the overall impact of COVID over the last few years, why I think it's important that something happens, like why tutor. Doesn't mean you have to hire a tutor, but we want to support our children through this process. There needs to be a plan of some sort. And then a general Q&A, which we'll put in the comments below, or you can just send me your questions and I'll get back to you. So what to expect? Well, first of all, let's just consider that everybody's journey is always slightly different. There's always a different starting point. I mean, even if it's similar, that children will always come in with their own strengths and areas where they need to develop. And we need to consider their just general attitude towards their learning as well. I always say to any parent who comes to me or asks me questions about the Kent Test, one of the first things I want to find out is like, what is their general attitude towards learning? Like, are they one of those children who come home and they root around in their bag looking for homework, or are they one of those children that can't wait to get back home because there's a really exciting bit in the book that they're reading? Because that's the kind of attitude towards your learning that either we want to develop over the next couple of years, depending on which year group your child's in, and like build up healthy habits, basically. Because if your child's not like that at the moment, that's not to say that we need to get them to 100% of, they're in their bag, they can't wait to do their homework, because I don't think there are many children like that, even the ones who have passed and gone to grammar. But we want to get them towards being that way. Like, yeah, homework is a little bit of a struggle, but if I ask them to do it, they get on and get it done, and they don't mind it once they've actually started it. Or yeah, it can be a bit of a struggle to get them to read, but once we found the right book, I couldn't stop them, hold them back, and they were asking about the next book in the series, that kind of stuff. That's what we want to kind of aim towards. So that's like your general attitude towards learning, and then the attitude towards passing the Kent Test, because there are some children who I've worked with in the past and they come to me and, I've had conversations with the parents about it, and they'll say, yeah, they really want to pass the Kent Test. And when I talk to the child, they're like, well, do you know what? I'm not that bothered about it. Now, that's not a bad place to be, I've got to say, if they're already agreed to come to tutoring, but we want them to have the ambition to pass, because otherwise they don't fully commit to the learning themselves, because in the back of their head they're just like, yeah, well, I'm not that bothered. Or perhaps it's like, well, I'm not sure. Most of the time it's a mask of, I'm not sure if I'm going to pass, so therefore I'm going to tell you I'm not bothered. So I can see through that. That's really transparent with most of the children. But there are very odd occasions where a child's just like, you know what, I don't even want to be here. And so we have to kind of find a way to get them to be motivated, or get them to see the bigger picture, that perhaps it's not even about the Kent Test. Perhaps it's just about feeling confident and having a session a week where they're just trying to improve their learning or how they learn. So what to expect? The journey's different for everybody. You know your child obviously better than me. So it's really important that if you decide, do you know what, yeah, I really like what you were saying there, Mr. C, can we have a conversation? That if we have like what I call a discovery call, and we connect over Zoom, that we find out and you share as much as you can about your child, because that really helps me understand where we need to start and how I can help motivate them through the whole year. Okay, well, structure. Look, I'm really honest about this. I'm a teacher first and a tutor second. I believe that the Kent test is a vehicle to give a child more confidence. Now, honestly, I want your child to pass. That's like a given. It's an obvious fact. But what I want them to do more than that is become confident learners. I want them to be more confident with when they read, when they comprehend, when they look at their spelling, their grammar, and their punctuation. I want them to make sure they feel like there's a structure or a way forward. And so overall, whether they're a year 4 child or whether they're a year 5 child preparing to take the Kent test, from the time they started with me, which is usually in September, by the time they finished with me, which is usually in the August, so 11 months, their journey of their self-confidence would be unrecognizable. Like from the moment they start to the moment they leave, the way they see themselves, their self-esteem should have grown. That's what I really want to achieve with the children that I work with. That's really important, because if we think about it, if we start to believe that we can learn, we start to believe that we can do maths, and we start to believe that our comprehension is good, what happens? Right? We start to believe it, and then magical things start to happen. Okay, so we have to develop that self-belief. And really, that's my job, right? That's my job, to make sure that we find those strategies that help children grow their self-belief to a point where when they come to take the Kent test in the September, that it just feels like an ordinary thing to do. It's like, yeah, I can do this, and I'm going to give it my best. And it's okay if I don't quite make it. Or they might be upset because they've spent a lot of time and effort, but they're gonna feel like it's not the end of the world. Now, all that in mind, obviously, I am going to teach them the main elements of the Kent test. We have to cover English, maths, verbal and non-verbal reasoning. And really, it's my job. I need to find the balance between how I teach them and the subjects, and then finding those test strategies that will work for them. Because what I don't ever do is hothouse them into just becoming like these Kent test robots, where they just go, oh yeah, it's that, I do this. Oh yeah, it's that, I do this. I want them to have the deeper understanding around English, around maths, and then really the puzzles with the verbal and non-verbal. And that is inbuilt into the program. It's working really, really well. And it gets some really good results as well. So it's really, really positive. So the general structure, I find teaching things in blocks just more convenient, and I feel like it's more purposeful for the children. And so what I do is the first block is English, and that takes us up. So if we start in September in our groups, we start in September. And so for the first 6 to 7 weeks, we really focus on English. Now, there's a few little changes to English when we start in September. Last year we did a lot, and the last previous years as well, we've done a lot of real basics around our grammar and our punctuation. Now, that's not going to disappear, but there's going to be a little bit more focus on comprehension. I want us to really practice our comprehension skills. The reason for that is because we tend to get really good results with our spelling, our grammar, and our punctuation from a Kent test perspective. And our comprehension is where we scrape through. We don't scrape through, like we do really well, but I just feel there's room for improvement. So I really want to kind of shine the light on comprehension. Now, the reason we do that is because I want the children to feel more confident. And I know that we can cover everything and plus a little bit more if I just shine the light a little bit more on comprehension. And then on the lead up to Christmas, so that kind of second term, we focus on maths, and we start right at the beginning. We do place value, we go into rounding, addition, takeaway, multiplying, and then a little bit of fractions. And then we learn the bits that we need to learn because they won't be taught until after, in school anyway, won't be taught in school until after the Kent test has been taken. So things like ratio and algebra. And then we take a break. So we get to Christmas and we take a break. So what I really want to do at this point, in that first sort of 3 months, I want the children to become completely immersed in the core subjects. of the Kent test. So by Christmas, when you ask me like, oh, how are we getting on? I can say, well, do you know what? Their core knowledge is really strong. Or I might say, do you know what? It's okay, but it would be better if we just focused a bit more on whatever it might be. For example, it could be spelling. From Christmas, well, say the new year, so January, we will work on verbal reasoning. And these are word and logic puzzles with a little bit of maths thrown in. The maths is quite easy in the verbal reasoning. I don't worry too much about the maths. We cover it, but we kind of really focus more on the puzzles and how to solve them. This is where the higher level of vocabulary really gets tested. And it's fine, and the children cope really well with it. And we kind of make sure that we allow them to know that it's forgivable. If they're not sure what a word is, we need to then spend time exploring it. And spelling's important in the verbal reasoning as well. And that goes on for around about that. That's been really good this year. We was really able to push through the verbal reasoning with a bit of speed. And we covered most of verbal reasoning in about 7 sessions. Some of us got through it a little bit quicker, but yeah, 7 sessions was about average. And in the fourth block, the non-verbal reasoning, we got through that in about 5 sessions this time. So that we've really nailed that down, and then it's practice and repetition. Now, the reason I do these 2 last is because these are brand new concepts. In most cases, these are brand new concepts for children. And so what I want to do is to make sure that we sort of cover this. This is usually all finished by Easter as well. So we're like right now, we're the 5th of May when I'm recording this. And so my current cohort have pretty much finished everything, and now we're into practice and repetition. So the non-verbal reasoning is really fresh in their mind. So it's really easy for them to recall how to solve the puzzle. So rather than saying, oh, do you remember when we did this puzzle back in September? And they're going to say no, aren't they? So that's one reason why I block as well. So it's not just kind of drip fed through. It means we can get really immersed in the subject. But doing non-verbal reasoning last just means we don't have to go back as far in our brain to kind of get the solutions out. So that's the structure. Now, there will be different changes for next year, some sort of improvement across the whole year. The one thing which I really want to increase is, but without increasing the stress level, I want to make sure everybody's got access to more resources. I don't want everything to be in the resource in the book. I want you to be able to access practice content or homework really easily. So that's something which I've been putting in place now for my current cohort. But I've basically been sending out weekly emails and saying, look, try this, click here, download it. And so it goes. I'm also putting in place some vocabulary puzzles for children to learn, which is helping with just learning about new words and just building up really just a bit of spelling practice as well, without making it feel like it's spelling practice. I'm going to gloss over some of this COVID impact. If you want to know more about this, come and contact me separately, because the last couple of years has been fascinating from a tutoring perspective. It's been really easy to see where the gaps have been left because of school closures, but also like the bubble closures as well, because it's not just been about closing schools, has it? The wider impact has been felt far wider than that. So there has been mislearning, and whenever we miss learning, even if you even if your child was ill for a week, that week is hard to catch up. So when we were suddenly missing bigger chunks, there was always going to be left this kind of gap that we needed to fill in one way or another. So the impact of this is that depending on which school you go to, certain schools focused on particular key aspects of learning, so we didn't lose everything, but not everything in the curriculum could be covered, not through the home learning anyway. Maths in particular, things like geometry, like angles, properties of shapes, names of shapes, those things have been missed or covered, but not in great depth. So I've just found the last 2 years I'm having to do a lot of catch-up work with angles, names of shapes, properties of 2D and 3D shapes, just to make sure that if a shape question came up in the Kent test, we were confident. But more importantly, that when the children are in school learning about shape, they're not starting from scratch. They've got a foundation knowledge there that they can use, and that's where they develop their confidence from. In general, the pass markers has remained about the same for the Kent test. It's not really jumped around too much, which is a bit surprising. If I'm honest, I thought it was going to drop a tiny bit last year, but it didn't. I think it jumped up a tiny bit by about 1%, I think. But it's always stayed within the same, within the sort of usual frame of when we pass, which is around about 75%. Sometimes it's a little bit more, sometimes it drops a little bit less, but around about 75%. Okay, we're getting through it. We're on to the final stretch, okay? Top tips. I would screenshot this or pause it and have a look, because this just gives you a good idea about what you could be doing at home to support your child. And this could be at any age. It could be year 3, year 4, year 5, year 6. It's not just about the Kent test. It's just general things you could be doing. Like with English, for example, one of my favourite games to play with the children is Mad Libs. If you haven't got one close to me, but if you haven't played the game Mad Libs, just Google it. There's loads of online versions you can play. They absolutely love it. Once they've played it a few times, they start to understand what makes it funny, and then they make it funnier. And it's just like this really funny way to learn things about nouns, verbs, adverbs, cities. Just loads of different ways of using it, but it's loads and loads of fun. But yeah, there's a few tips on here, and it's the same with maths, really. I mean, the big thing that comes up every year is fractions. Always, I don't understand fractions. But when you scratch the surface of it, most children don't understand fractions because they don't have a really good knowledge of their times tables. So we have to work backwards and take a step back before we can take those steps forward. If your school has TT Rockstar, great. If your child is bored of TT Rockstar, that's unfortunate, but I know that's kind of happening a little bit now. Now it's been around a little bit. Just kind of bribe or have a go, hit the button, change it around a little bit. I'm not a massive fan of bribing, but for 5 minutes worth of work, I'll give you a bit of context, right? If a child spent 5 minutes, particularly a year 4, year 5 child, spent 5 minutes every day practicing the times tables that they need to practice, within 3 months, that would be a permanent piece of knowledge that they would never have to go back and practice again. It would just be in their brain. 5 minutes a day for 3 months. I know it sounds like a massive commitment, but if we can just get them to buy into the idea that in 3 months' time, you'll never have to do it again. I mean, I'm not saying they probably have to do it at school, but it would be instant knowledge, Or we try to aim to now the curriculum tells us that children should be answering the times table questions or simple times table questions within 6 seconds. And that's it. If they can achieve that, we're okay. And over here, anything to do with problem solving will help with our reasoning skills. So, I mean, practicing spellings kind of comes under English, but with our verbal reasoning, it also helps. But learning the alphabet, like forwards and backwards, things like some things that I've seen over the last couple of years that have really helped with problem solving in general. Do you know, like the puzzles you get where you like something we called in school called tangrams? I'm not sure whether you've heard of those, but you end up with shapes that you've got to fit in a particular space, and you can flip them. They mirror around. So you've got to get the right way, and there can be different ways of solving them. Rubik's cubes. Do you know like the 3D puzzles you get when you have to build them and put them together? They're quite good. Any type of puzzles, any type of problem solving or sorting activity will help. Okay, so that's like the top tips for me. The last little bit is what I offer you as a tutor. I suppose before I do this, I should say why do we tutor really? Why should we? Well, look, you really don't have to. You really don't have to. Now, and I know that seems like I'm trying to, give my business away, but you can do this on your own. There's so many books available now. There's lots of sort of online content that you could access. If you really felt like that, I don't want to go down the tutoring route, I just need to have a program in place or a plan to stick to, that you can do that by buying your books. Now, I recommend you definitely do something and don't just leave it to chance, because the way the Kent test is made and the way the questions are given are different to what the children would experience at school. Like, for example, it's all multiple choice. Some of the questions and the vocabulary that are used are really high level, so they need to be exposed to that kind of level of questioning. However, we've all just been through 2.5 years worth of COVID times where schools have shut and we've done home learning, and we know it's not easy to teach our own children. And having support along the way will make us feel better. It will lower the anxiety for you and for your child. Okay. The other thing we need to consider is we want to make sure everything gets covered. And I always feel like this does a disservice to parents, and it's not me having a go about your knowledge on anything at all, because there's a very good chance that across the subjects, there's definitely going to be a subject you could be better at than me. But there will be areas where you go, oh, I'm stronger with maths, but I'm not so good with the English. Or I don't mind the verbal reasoning, but that non-verbal, I just don't understand. And so what you're paying for is an expert to sort of do that for you. And we want the coverage, and actually the assessment as well, the ongoing assessment to help. So what do I offer them? I'm going to offer you 2 levels of support. There's silver and gold. Now, your silver package is just the tuition, so weekly tuition. All of your materials are covered with that. I provide everything for you and other things as well, but just the general materials of what the children would use. But what you pay for in the silver is just those sessions. If you like everything, you want to put everything into one basket, gold is the way forward. That's £135 a term, by the way, for silver. That's per term, 6 sessions. For gold, it's £150 per term. Now, with the gold, I offer mock sessions and creative writing sessions on top. Now, they are priced separately, but with the gold package, you just get access to them all the time as standard. If you're silver, you'll just be offered access to them just with that 25% discount on top. So I'm going to show you this in like a very convenient package page. This is you can see this on here. You could pause it and have a look through. Also, in the link in the comments below, you'll be able to download this and have a read through and just consider whether it's a package you would like. Now, this is all for my group work. So I'm going to set up groups through the week. There's going to be 10 groups available Monday to Friday. You will choose which group you go into depending on your own timetable of when you can attend. But it should offer flexibility. So, for example, if there's like a week where you can't attend, there'll be another opportunity to join another group just for a week. Or you can then access the pre-recorded sessions online, so you don't have to miss anything. Or you won't miss anything anyway, I should say. So this is what's included, so you can all see it all there, and it's all kind of conveniently in one place. And that's it. So what next? What do we do next? Well, look, if you feel like, do you know what, Mr. C, this is perfect for me, send me a message. Let's connect, have a phone call or connect on Zoom and just take it the next step further. Places are being sold in the group now. They'll go quickly from now. All the kind of people who get in nice and early, they're pretty much all booked in now. So places will start to sell usually from May until June. It gets quite busy, and then there's usually another mad rush coming at the summer holidays when people realise, it's time to do it. We need to find someone. So I recommend getting in nice and early. I do have very limited one-to-one space, limited to the point where at the moment I don't have any to actually sell. Just because I have people from like previous years who stay with me. So just bear that in mind. Like if you are looking for one-to-one tutoring, that's not me at the moment. But again, remember, don't be afraid just to go, I'm not sure about group work. Just have a chat with me and I'll see if there's anything that we can do to help you either find another tutor who can offer one-to-one, or maybe you'll feel a bit better about it once you've asked a few questions. Okay, Brilliant. That's it. If there's anything else that you need, please just reach out and contact me. You know where my page is on Facebook. All of my messaging details are on there. I've got WhatsApp. You can email me. You can message me on Facebook. You can leave your name and email address in the comments here if you wish. But yeah, just please reach out if there's anything else that I've missed or you've got any other questions. Thank you. If you stayed all the way through, well done. And I shall speak to you soon. See you later.